Okay, this is part two. I had to change locations. You guys know that my battery died. If you're watching this, I don't know what time you're watching this because they're either posted now or they're not posted. But if you're watching it, it's probably posted. So I left off about belts and, them being a part of the uniform or being instruments of mass destruction when you are in a fight. Because to me, a belt is part of the uniform, but it also is a weapon, regardless of whether you have a black belt, a white belt, regardless of the degree of belt. I think the belt system is just a load of hot garbage, and it's a system that all schools, for some reason, have to implement. I don't believe in belts because if you didn't really fight for that belt, is what I'm teaching you really working? Because if you go out of my dojo and you have a black belt, and I'm not going to say you didn't earn it, but you have a black belt, and you meet somebody who's never been in a martial art duel, fight, sparring match whatsoever, they just know how their body works, and they whoop your ass. Are you going to give me that black belt back? Because even though you earned it, you broke some bricks, you choreographed the fight scene, it all worked out in the end, and you broke some boards. You know how to work nunchucks. You know how to work chobos. You know how to work tonfas. You know how to work a lot of things that I've taught you to do. But you went against somebody who's just good at fighting, regardless, and they adapt on a fly. They don't know karate, but they saw you throw a kick. So they adapted to that kick, and now they know how to throw a kick. Alright? You may not believe that what I'm saying is possible. I'm here to tell you, yes it is. Because when you are learning a martial art, you are basically copying what someone tells you to do. And then you are adapting it to your body mechanics. Understand that shit. If I tell you to get in your guard, you have guards that you can get into. This is a standard guard for a regular fighter. This is a standard guard for a Wing Chun fighter, also a southpaw. If you are a boxer or if you are left-handed, this is your standard. But it's also Wing Chun because most of Wing Chun deals with low strikes and strikes to the area, and you generally use your striking hand, which is your power hand, versus when you're in boxing, this is your jab and testing hand, and this is your power hand. I haven't met too many people who are left-handed that do Wing Chun, and they would probably still either stand in a southpaw stand or they would stand in this hand because it's the same thing as this. So with Wing Chun, if I block and I strike, I just turn Wing Chun into karate. Where if I block and I strike, I stay with Wing Chun, block, strike. Or if I block and I knuckle strike, I just turn this into Kempo. So, boom, boom, I knuckle strike your hand. This is to protect everything right here. So, boom, boom, I'm still doing Wing Chun, but I turned it into Kempo because I knuckle struck your fucking hand. But if I block and I strike, it's still Kung Fu versus Kempo. It's minor differences in martial arts, y'all. It really is. Just so fucking minute, you barely notice it. But if I see a left-handed person in a standard stance, but they're going to do Wing Chun, boom, boom, it's the same exact shit that I was doing in a left-handed stance for straight boxing. Alright? And then if I'm doing Kung Fu and I decide to go low, then it's low kick left and then high strike right or high strike left. It just depends on who's teaching you what. Your job when I teach you is to mimic that shit, to copy that shit, and then go home and practice that shit. Every day, all damn day. Eat, breathe, sleep, martial arts. Now the thing about belts, when I was running around in my 20s, not in my 30s, because in my 30s, I was pretty much like, fuck it. I know how to fight. I'm not worried about nothing else. But there's laws in place that I couldn't open up a school. Now, I don't know how the laws really work. I only know what I was told by all the senseis or sifus or shidoshis or whatever the hell you want to call them in Charlottesville who have their own schools. Well, you got to go through this hoop and that hoop and this hoop. And I'm thinking to myself, wow, that's a lot of shit just to open up a school to teach for free. Because I wanted to teach Kung Fu for free. If my movie career would have took off, my dojo would have been being taught for free. I actually would have brought in other teachers to teach while I'm making movies, but in my downtime, I would be that fucking teacher that's there all day, every day. And that dream's still reachable, maybe, maybe not. It's not dead, but I need to focus more on my acting to make that dream come true. And I can't really focus on my acting if no one's giving me a chance. Okay, now back to the martial arts. So, you need to learn how to adapt in a fight. You also need to know that you actually can fight. You also need to know that when I'm teaching you something, that I'm not going to let you leave that dojo until I make sure your shit's right. All right? You will probably hate me. But it will be, I hate you right now, but I'm going to thank you for that shit later. And the reason why I say that, because my experience is really quite simple. When I was going all around Charlottesville, I was getting kicked out of dojos. They were laughing me out with the exception of the Three Emperors, but he was shutting down, and he's also part native, so I'm pretty sure that love and respect for both of our native culture is probably why he's like, I'm going to be easy with this brother, because he looked at me and he's like, you got some native in you. What tribe? And I was like, dude, all I know is it's Cherokee. I don't know anything else. And it's like, okay, well, we're Crete, and we're brothers. And I was like, okay, cool. It's unfortunately, I'm closing down the dojo. I'm not opening it. I'm not doing any more martial arts. He probably would have been the only one that would have given me the training that I asked for, because he was doing kung fu. Everybody else is doing taekwondo or karate or some washed up version of that shit. And I prefer kung fu. You guys will pick your style and you will love it. I picked kung fu because kung fu to me was more deadlier, and I also like kempo. And I kind of combine that shit together. Where, I do know taekwondo. I do know enough BJJ, enough capoeira, enough aikido, enough judo, enough jiu-jitsu, standing jiu-jitsu. If I can recognize the style, I can probably whip your ass with it. That's why I said you have to be able to adapt. I do not know JKD. I do not know Salat. I do not know Krav Maga. I do not know the Filipino martial art. I think it's called Kali. I don't know it. But 9 times out of 10, anything that involves me holding a weapon means I have to execute you. So I prefer to be the weapon, and most weapons are an extension of your skill set. Except for there's just one little problem for everybody who does more weapons training than physical training. You can't walk around with your weapons all the fucking time. Knowing that, you should probably more focus on your physical training versus your weapons training. And you don't have to follow my lead, and that's fine. You are doing it for you. You're not doing it for me. But it would behoove you to know that in some cities and in most of the 50 states, you can't walk around with a fucking pair of nunchucks out. You can't walk around with a fucking samurai sword or a katana. You can walk around with your lightsaber, because technically, even though if you have learned Aikido, you can use it as an Aikido stick or a Kendo stick if you've learned Kendo. If you haven't, then, it's just a lightsaber. But, and if you are learning like we learn at Saber Night Lights, then you can learn that this shit can be effective if taught properly. Shout out to Saber Night Lights and my bro, Courtney Monroe. Anyway, moving back on to Kung Fu and other martial arts. The belt system is a system of control, but it doesn't let you know if you're good or not, because to earn some belts, you have to do katas. To earn other belts, you have to break boards and bricks, which has absolutely positively nothing to do with martial arts. It has something to do with how strong you are up here and here. You can be strong as fuck here, but that doesn't mean your body's going to cooperate. And they don't teach you that shit when you try to break a fucking brick and you break your fucking hand. Now, there is a way to teach how to hit properly. I'm against all that shit. I'm against breaking boards. I'm against breaking bricks, because to me, that shit's irrelevant. If you see me hold up a brick and break it, that might not deter you from fighting me, because I'm only 5'3" and a half. And you might look at me and say, oh, this little bastard has a little bit of strength. He can break a brick. And just because you can break a brick or a board does not mean you can beat that guy across the battlefield from you. It just means you can break a brick or a board. I.e., that's why I said I really think the school should implement fighting for your belt. I know everybody's against it in Charlottesville, and a couple of cats that I went to go see in Richmond. Shout out to Dong's Karate and Taekwondo. No, they were all against it. They were all against it. And they got on my nerve, and I'm going to get on yours. And I'm going to tell you exactly what they asked me, and I'm going to tell you exactly what I said before they told me, please vacate my dojo. with the exception of the International Black Belt Center. They just told me to get the fuck out without even giving me a shot when I was looking for casts and characters for my film. So, the first thing they asked me was, why is fighting for your belt so important to you? Are you like planning on becoming a street fighter? I said, well, first off, I'm already a street fighter. Second off, if I spend $150 every 3 months or every month to learn how to punch or hit or kick somebody, that shit needs to work, because I am not a rich man. And most people that come to martial arts, they aren't that rich, and some of them can just barely scrape by enough money to pay for the lessons. The goddamn shit you teach me needs to work. When I walk out that fucking dojo, if somebody decides to jump and attack me, and I'm not talking about the Hand or the Foot Clan, I'm not talking about anybody from Marvel or DC or Image or any of those ninjas and all that shit. I'm talking about a real live, honest to God, someone trying to hurt me. The shit that I learned in your dojo needs to work. That goes back to my rule of 70-20, 70-30. Because 70% of the shit that you know only works in the dojo. And the 30% of what you can use only works in the streets. And then there's that middle line, you know, like if you're in sporting events or whatever, if you're doing sport karate or sport taekwondo, you know you have all these fucking rules, which wipes out about 25% of the shit you learned in the dojo, because one, you're wearing padding, which is good, but two, the padding limits your motion, which is bad, which it all kinds of comes up into a big-ass fucking clusterfuck that can lead you into tit-tats. You know, and that's, because those are your rules. I mean, even though you have pads, they do kind of want you to have control over your shit when you tap somebody in the face. And, you know, some of those wild kicks, like reverse tornado kicks, those can't really land soft. I'm sorry. Those don't really land soft. They sting a little bit. I mean, even if you're lightweight and you have some control, you don't have control over gravity. So that's why practice makes perfect. That's also when you see people like Donnie Yen and them in these movies. The people that they are fighting with are professionally trained, but they have to learn how to distribute their weight right for these goddamn tornado kicks and shit. So that if there is a shot where there's a connection needed, like if you need to kick, I need to not die when you're kicking me so that I can go down without getting hurt. Sometimes there's padding, sometimes there's not. So you need to be aware of that shit. In real life, there's no fucking padding when you're not in the dojo and you're not in a tournament fight. When you get kicked in the fucking chest or the face or anywhere, that shit hurts. And also, you could probably die if it's done right the first fucking time. Things that they leave off. And you need to know this shit, because if I'm training you, you're not walking out my dojo without knowing that the shit that I train you will work on some level or another. And practice makes great execution. I'm not going to say practice makes perfect, because nothing will ever be perfect, but practice makes great execution. And you need to practice this shit. You need to live this shit, because if you don't, and if I'm teaching you at a high capacity level, you know, I don't know what you're going to do when you leave. I don't know if you're going to become the next UFC champion. I don't know if you're going to become the next martial arts sensation. What I do know is that when you leave my dojo, if you remember 3 things that's the most important. 1, it's not how hard you hit, it's where you hit. 2, if a person can't breathe, they can't hurt you. And 3, your ass needs to adapt to every situation involving fighting. Now that 4th thing that's very fucking important, it's probably not as important as 1, 2, and 3. But that 4th thing is, I can't unteach you what you already know. I can only teach you from the level you are on. And a lot of teachers in schools, they don't do that shit. They put you back day 1 white belt. I like, dude, I've already had martial arts experience. Putting me back day 1 white belt doesn't help me. It hurts me more than it helps me. And nobody agrees with that, and I don't give a shit. I can almost guarantee you, if you've been in martial arts since you was like 9 years old and you're 32 now, I can't take you back to day 1 for my shit. I need to know what belts you got. You know, I got a black belt in karate. Cool. Now we just got to change your hands. There's not much I really need to teach you, because karate and kung fu are paper thin. So unless you come to me for Kempo, which has a little bit degree of difficulty, really little, but you know, because that's more about pressure points and connections versus power and direction for karate and strength and direction for kung fu. But it's more like direction for Kung Fu, because Kung Fu is more about direction of where you actually need to hit someone versus Karate, which is how powerful you hit somebody. And if you can combine them all together, you pretty much are doing Kempo. But the thing is, I need to make sure I'm teaching you on your level, and I need to make sure that you can do what I say so that your ass walks out alive. And if someone fucks with you, if someone tries to bring bodily harm to you, then you would be able to defend yourself to a degree that you can either win or do enough damage to them so that they'll back off. Because sometimes you can't win them all. But if you can inflict enough damage on somebody, they'll back off. That would be called a draw, by the way. But most importantly, you're not going to know if you can take a hit until you actually get hit. And that's something that no dojo teacher wants to tell you. You know why they don't want to tell you? Because they don't want to scare you from walking away. But the reality of it is, once you start sparring, you're going to learn that some people don't have control over the power in which they possess. Which means that shit's going to sound like that, and you're either going to drop or you're going to get pissed off because you didn't drop, and then you're going to try to return the favor. All right? And that makes really bad martial artists, because then you have no coercion of control. All right? So, since I'm there, I'm going to go ahead and finish it off with that. This is something very important, and this is something that as many martial arts schools as I've been to have never done. They've never wanted to teach me at the level that I'm at. They've always wanted me to do day one, and they've wanted me to do it their way. It doesn't work like that. Because, alright, when I joined the Army, day one, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, yes, that works. Because I never took that shit when I wasn't in the Army. Alright? In fact, I heard of it, but I never took it. Never even watched the video of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, at least knowingly. I can't say that I didn't really watch it. I just didn't know what the fuck it was. Because I knew what the Gracies, I knew they fought. I didn't know that that was Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And then it totally slipped my mind when I got into the Army. When we got down in the Delta Company, and I started having to get on my stomach and back and shit and get across guys and try to do side mounts and top control and top guard. I didn't know what none of that shit was until I had to do it. And it's like, why does this shit look familiar? Gracie and Shamrock was the first thing that came to my head. And in gi and no gi, you have a harder time because everybody's sweaty. Where gi, that gi is your weapon, i.e., that's why your black belt can be used as a weapon. All right, because you can choke somebody out with your black belt. But like I said, when I was in the Army, I sucked at BJJ. I still suck at BJJ. But I know enough BJJ that I could fuck you up before you get me on the ground to put that shit in. So here's that thing about fighting. I had to go day one BJJ because I never took BJJ. I didn't have to go day one Taekwondo because I just couldn't earn a fucking belt no matter how hard I tried. But the thing about Taekwondo works at a distance. I'm small. I don't have distance. I have to adapt. So if I'm going to do a Taekwondo turning round kick on someone taller, I got to bridge that gap. If I can't bridge that gap with Taekwondo, I need to use something else, i.e. Wing Chun. If I can't use Wing Chun, I'm going to have to use Karate or Kempo or Aikido, where I may have to roll in to do it. You all know the Aikido roll. Come on, if you don't know the Aikido roll, go watch an Aikido video. The Aikido roll. I'm not talking about when you're getting thrown. I'm talking about the Aikido roll and attack. Ken on Street Fighter also does that Aikido roll, in case you need a video game reference. I don't know any other video game characters that does it. But the Aikido roll, there's also a Judo roll, because Ryu and Ken both do the Judo roll. So, there's different roles in different martial arts. I don't know if you can roll in BJJ, like roll, not let's roll when we get on the ground, we get on the mat. No, fuck that shit. But I learned to sprawl. I learned top guard, side guard, full guard, all that shit. Can I remember how to do it? Fuck no. But I can remember that if you can't get me on the ground, that shit's not going to help you one fucking bit. I just pissed off everybody who does BJJ. I'm sorry, but it is true. If you come at me and you're going to sprawl to try to take me down with a single leg or a double leg, you're going to get a knee to the face. Sorry. You're going to get a knee to the face because you have to grab me for that shit to work. If you go in and grab me and I forget to use my knee, I'm going to elbow you in the back. Why am I going to elbow you in the back? Because you're not getting me on the ground where you can use your skills to fuck my shit up. I'm going to use my skills, every fucking bit of it, to prevent you from fucking my shit up. I.e., when you leave my dojo, you're going to need to know how to combat other martial arts as well as the martial art in which I teach you. Just in case a student decides to go rogue and decides he wants to beat up all the students in my school. It does happen. No. But why did I bring that up? It's because when I went to all the dojos, all the teachers told me, fighting for your belt doesn't make any sense. Excuse me? Fighting for your belt doesn't make any sense. So let me get this straight. I can fight at a black belt level. But because you don't see a black belt, you think that me asking you to fight for my belt doesn't make sense. Now I want all y'all to let that sit in, because every teacher that I bumped into in Charlottesville, minus the guy from the Three Emperors, told me the exact same shit. Fighting for your belt does not make sense. And I said, okay, well here's the thing. I didn't take martial arts to learn a fucking belt or to earn a belt. I took martial arts so I could fuck people up and prevent from being fucked up by whatever style they know. I.e., that's why I took Aikido. That's why I took Judo. That's why I took Jiu-Jitsu, standing Jiu-Jitsu. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu was kind of forced upon me. That's why I took Taekwondo. That's why I took Naharate. That's why I took Kempo. That's why I took what little bit of capoeira I learned. You know, there's more in my arsenal, but you know, hip replacement, so I have to use what fucking works. Fighting for my belt would prove it not only to the person I'm fighting, but to myself, that this shit works. You know? And the reason why I think that you should fight for your belt, not because I'm bringing up the next UFC champion. No. You're paying me for a service. And that service is to make sure that no matter who you have conflict with, you will be able to hold your own, if not beat their ass. I can teach you enough to hold your own. And we only need 3 days for that. But if you don't practice what I teach you at the level that you are at, if you don't practice what I teach you, it's your fault if you get your ass kicked. If I walk outside today and get my ass kicked, it's my fault. Because I'm not training the way I should be training. And because of my hip, I really don't train hard like I used to. I'm blessed if I can get 20 minutes in with other things going on in my life. So when I get a chance to train, no matter where the fuck I'm at, I train. I've had this issue at school last semester. My teacher caught me doing martial arts outside. She wasn't really impressed. And she's like, how long you been studying? She wasn't impressed because I didn't do anything like impressive. She just wasn't impressed because of where I chose to train at. No. So she didn't have anything bad to say. She thought it was nice stuff. She's like, you've been doing that for a while. I was like, yeah, since I was 7. But, you know, she's like, you really think that outside in the school courtyard is probably the best place to train? And my smart ass and negative mouth, hi, Miss G. Anywhere I step is a good place to train. But that's just me, because martial arts is my life. It's all I have. You know, so that's just the way I feel about it. And, you know, if you're going to be a martial artist, you have to understand that it may not be all other martial artists have. They may have other things going on. But I've been fighting since I was 6 years old. And martial arts ain't never let me down. I've lost 1 sparring match in my entire life. Maybe 2. But the one I can remember was the one that no one let me live down. And I've only got caught in a seatbelt 1 time. So I didn't get to win that fight. But I did get to hold a gun to a police officer's stomach. Hi, big guy. Anyway, hey, he had his arm up against my neck, and this hand was free, and he set his leg on my legs. His gun's right here. My hand's right here. My other hand is right here, trying to hold his hand but so he doesn't push it into my throat. And he's pushing it up, pushing my head back, and I'm like, dude. And he's like, nah, you're not going nowhere, son, because the seatbelt just got off. And I said, if you look at my left hand, I got your gun. It's like, what? I said, go ahead, look down there. You know, my pinky's in your trigger wall, and your gun and your holster is a flip holster. So you should probably not have put your fucking leg in here in the first place with your gun just because you have size. eye officer. I'm sure he remembers that shit. And I hope he learned from that shit because it was well over 10, 15 years ago when this shit happened. Point being made, situational awareness is a thing. But I'm telling you, if you are not training hard, and if you are not training from the level you are on, and you go back to day one because you can't untrain a martial artist, you cannot untrain that shit. And if your teacher is telling you that fighting for your belt doesn't make sense, I'm not going back to your school. I'm sorry. Now, if he says fighting for your belt is kind of against the rules or whatever, I'm like, okay, but who writes the rules for your school? You do. Change the fucking rules. Because I'm going to tell you right now, if I'm paying you $150, rather it be once a month, every month, or rather it be 150 every 3 months, or if I gotta pay you, let's see, it's 12 years in a month. Let me get a calculator, because I don't want to give you guys the wrong shit. So let's see, I gotta pay you $150 a month. But I fucked that up. No, I didn't. 150 times 12. I'm paying you $1,800 or $1,800 for the year. So if I drop that to you at the end of the year, and I get my ass kicked because you didn't allow me to fight for my belt. Now let me break that down for y'all. Let's see. Let's say I'm paying $250 times 12. Ignore the children. So that's $3,000 a month. If I'm paying you $3,000 a month for you to teach me how to beat somebody's ass, I'm busy. If I'm paying you $3,000 a month for you to teach me how to beat somebody's ass, that shit needs to work. Because $3,000 is a lot of goddamn money. So for everybody who doesn't agree that you should fight for your belt, I want you to think about how much you pay your sensei or your sifu. And then they say, well, it's against the rules, or fighting for your belt is pointless. Is it? You know, that's $3,000 out of my pocket if I'm dropping you $250 a month, every month, for 12 months. And I gotta go through bullshit katas and break boards and shit. And I go outside and get my ass whooped. You might want to think that shit over. And I'm not trying to break anybody's bank. I'm not trying to put anybody down for how they teach. I'm not trying to do that. Just trying to clarify that if I'm paying you $250 a month, I don't care if I'm paying you $45 a month, I better be able to fight when I leave your dojo. That's all I'm saying. I better be able to fight. And I know a bulk of that's on me. But when it comes to testing day, I should be able to fight for my next level of belt. If I'm a white belt today, in 2 weeks, if it's a testing period, I should be able to test. I should not have to pay for testing because I'm paying you $250 a month for like the whole year every month. That's 12 months in a year. 12 times $250. It's a lot of fucking money. So, you know, by the end of the year, I've paid you $3,000. I don't need to be able to break bricks. I need to be able to break jaws. And if you guys are offended by that, I'm sorry. This is my channel. I'm not sugarcoating shit. I give you 99.9. Today I'm giving you the whole 1,000. This is part 2. I'm almost done. Thank you for bearing with me. But if I'm paying you $3,000 by the end of the fucking year, I better be able to hit somebody with bad intentions. And granted, I know I gotta legally pay for that shit in case I kill someone and I may have to go to jail. But if I don't know how to fight after that first year of paying you $3,000 a month, I'm going somewhere else. And that's $3,000 that you're not going to see anymore. And I'm not doing that. I'm not saying that. I'm not trying to be an asshole. I'm not trying to be a dick. I'm just telling you that at 48 years old, if I just started karate tomorrow, and it's going to take me a year, so I'll be 49 before I can get a fucking damn blue belt or a green belt in whatever martial art I choose, I better be able to fucking fight. That's all I'm saying. I better be able to fucking fight. And if I fight for my belt, you know, the person who has the belt that I'm fighting, that's like the highest ranking belt in that class, they don't lose their belt. You know, and it's not like we got to go all out. But I need to be able to hold my own or beat that fucker. And if I can't, have I really learned? Have I really been practicing? I want you guys to let that sit in as I end this. I'm Echo Fan Grey Wolf, and I have offended anybody. I apologize, but I'd rather offend you with the truth than tell you a fucking lie, and then you find out when you're laying in the hospital with a black eye, some broken ribs, a broken nose, a broken elbow, a broken arm, a broken leg, because you chose to just say, fuck it. Echo doesn't know what he's talking about. Yeah, I do. Just because I'm not famous and just because I don't have a black belt, because black belts are just to hold up the pants, doesn't mean I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. That being said, this is Kung Fu Havoc number 2. I'm Echo Fan Grey Wolf. Be seeing you.